The second the handcuffs snapped shut on Carlton Reeves' wrists, right there on my driveway, in plain view of the Channel 11 van and half of Cedar Hollow, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not joy, not relief, something sharper, louder, like thunder breaking in the distance. That's when it hit me. I'd finally taken down the man who'd turned my own home into a battlefield. They hauled him and his little crew out in broad daylight, cameras rolling, neighbors gawking. For the first time in months, I breathed without feeling watched. I never imagined my Saturday morning would end with the self-proclaimed neighborhood king shoved in the backseat of a cruiser, but maybe I should have known. Around here, things rarely play out the way you expect. I never asked for any of this. I was just Lucas Miller, quiet, steady, third generation to live in the old brick house beneath the magnolias on Hillrest Lane. Spent most of my time tinkering with vintage radios up in the attic. I kept to myself. All I wanted was peace and the freedom to paint my fence the color I liked and let my grass grow however I damn well pleased. When I bought the house from my grandfather's estate, the first thing I checked was the deed. No homeowners association. That mattered to me. That was the line I swore I'd never cross. But someone like Carlton Reeves doesn't respect lines. He steps over them like they're suggestions. Slick shoes, neatly pressed Briarwood Common Council blazer, smile like a used car ad. He fancied himself the mayor of our little corner of suburbia. For months, he kept sliding pamphlets through my mail slot, always smiling too wide at cookouts, talking about joining the community effort. Every time I told him no, firm but civil. He didn't hear civility. He heard defiance. It began with little things, notes on my door, vague references to shared standards. Then, one cold and windy March morning, I'm out raking the front yard when my old metal rooster spins like mad in the wind. That's when I see them, 3 black SUVs snaking up the driveway, tight as a funeral procession. Out they poured. Matching jackets, clipboards, phones at the ready. It looked like either a cult or a pyramid scheme. Turns out it was worse. Carlton led the charge, flanked by Lorna Pike, their purse-mouthed treasurer, and Mark Hullman, their so-called security director. The rest were just followers, holding up phones like they were documenting a crime scene. Carlton didn't say a word of greeting, just shoved a piece of paper in my face. All caps, red stamp, immediate action required. Emergency compliance inspection, he said, oily as ever. Best you cooperate, Lucas. I reminded him again I wasn't part of their HOA. Never signed. Never agreed. He gave me this grin that made my skin crawl and said, sometimes voluntary becomes mandatory. That's how we build strong neighborhoods. It was almost funny, the way he meant it, like he was reciting scripture. I refused, of course. Told them they were trespassing and had no authority. But Carlton didn't care. He waved his hand like a conductor, and his crew got to work. Lorna snapped photos of my flower beds. Mark filmed my roofline. Strangers I'd never seen before wandered across my yard like they owned it. One guy even pushed open my front door and stepped into my living room, muddy boots and all, snapping pictures of my grandfather's old cuckoo clock like it was some kind of bomb. It was so absurd, I didn't know whether to laugh or start screaming. But then Carlton strutted right into my attic, into my sanctuary, saw my radio workbench, the one I built with my granddad, and declared it a safety hazard. Something about electromagnetic interference. He slapped a neon orange sticker on the old Zenith cabinet, marked it for removal. That's when I remembered the pendant around my neck. Small, discreet, a wearable camera, synced to a secure cloud. I pressed it without a word. Live feed, active. Every second of their nonsense streamed and saved. Carlton didn't notice. He kept barking orders like he ran the place. But I knew then I had them. Every second. Every violation. Every lie. And now, as they let him off in cuffs, neighbors whispering, phones recording, a storm finally clearing, I knew I'd done it. I stood up to the tyrant next door. And this time I won. That was the moment everything got personal. That old oak cabinet was the only thing in the entire house I cherished more than the roof itself. I tried again, voice steady. You're trespassing. The sheriff will be here in 10 minutes. Mark, the so-called security officer, whipped out a laminated badge no bigger than a grocery store discount card. It looked like he'd printed it at a copy shop that morning. Community safety officer, he said, flashing it like it meant something. We're authorized to enforce neighborhood standards. I almost laughed. Almost. But then I saw Lorna rifling through my kitchen drawers, holding up a bottle of wood polish like it was some kind of illegal substance. Meanwhile, Mark was scribbling down the expiration dates on my milk cartons. It was so outrageous, so beyond reason. I felt like I was suffocating, part fury, part panic, part this can't be real. Carlton finally called everyone into the foyer and made his grand announcement. If I didn't cough up $6,000 in fines within 48 hours, they'd place liens on my house. I demanded to know where they were getting any of this authority. Carlton, smug as ever, pulled out a crumpled photocopy of a quitclaim deed. No signatures, no stamps, just a blurry legal-looking form and his arrogant grin. We've got enforcement rights now, he said. You can fight it, but you'll lose. And that's when I heard the sirens. Thank God. 2 sheriff cruisers rolled up, their lights cutting through the afternoon like a promise. The deputies stepped out, tall, no-nonsense types. Carlton tried to smooth things over, pretending he hadn't explicitly asked them to enter my home. One of the deputies, Ortega, built like a boulder, took Mark's fake badge, looked it over and said, "You want to try that again?" For a second, it felt like justice was about to land. But instead of arresting them, Ortega just told them to step off the property, warned them, and told me to call again if they returned. Carlton, ever confident, smirked. "We'll be back with real authority." They piled into their SUVs and drove off, still filming like they were starring in a reality show. I locked the doors behind them, hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone. That night, I paced the house, running through everything in my head. Rage, humiliation, helplessness all swirling under my skin like venom. But I wasn't going to just sit and take it. I reviewed every bit of footage I'd captured, clipped it together, and sent it to 2 people. Mona Krishna, a fire-breathing attorney who made her name dismantling corrupt HOAs, and Tessa Liu, the top investigative reporter at Channel 11. The message I sent was simple. They broke into my home. Mona replied in under an hour. Asterisk, they have no legal standing. Let's burn them down. Asterisk. I didn't sleep. I just waited. At 2 a.m. my power went out. Only my house. Everyone else on the street still had lights. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside into the rain. That's when I saw it. The utility line to my house had been yanked off the pole. The clamp was loosened. Footprints, heavy work boots, led from the pole to my back fence. Mark's boots. I called the emergency line for the utility company, then Ortega. He added vandalism to the report but warned me, "You need a restraining order, Lucas. These people are playing dirty." Mona moved fast. By the next morning, we were in front of Judge Litton with time-stamped photos, video clips, and a notarized statement from my electrician. The judge reviewed it all, each photo raising his eyebrows higher. He signed the restraining order on the spot. Any Briarwood Council member who set foot on my property would go straight to jail. But Carlton doesn't back down. Saturday morning, fog blanketing the street. I was barely awake and nursing burnt coffee when I spotted 2 silhouettes emerging from the mist. Carlton and Mark again, this time dragging a locksmith and carrying a new deadbolt. They were halfway up my driveway, Carlton yammering into his phone and waving the locksmith forward, claiming they were repossessing the house over unpaid fines. My heart was pounding out of my chest. Fear, fury, and total disbelief. But I wasn't alone. Down the block, Channel 11's news van was parked. Tessa's cameraman had the lens trained right on them. Mona must have tipped them off. Just as Carlton shoved the new lock into place, flashing lights lit up the street. Ortega came flying down the road, sirens screaming, cruiser skidding to a halt. He stepped out, hand near his holster. "Step away from the property," he shouted. Mark froze, hands still on the lock, his face ghost white. In moments, both of them were cuffed. Ortega found a stack of fake lien notices in Carlton's briefcase. forged with my name. Then the real kicker. Mark had a concealed pistol tucked into his waistband. No permit. Backup cruisers rolled in. Carlton and Mark were loaded into separate vehicles. The locksmith stood on my porch, arms raised like he was waiting to be arrested next. I watched it all unfold, stunned and relieved in equal measure. But that wasn't the end. With Mona tearing into Briarwood in court and Tessa airing daily exposés on their corrupt tactics, something in Cedar Hollow shifted. Neighbors who'd been silent out of fear started stepping forward, lining up outside Mona's office, telling their stories, signing affidavits. The tide had turned, and for the first time in months, I finally felt like this house, my house, belonged to me again. Someone leaks documents, spreadsheets, receipts, exposing that Lorna had been diverting HOA funds to a bogus landscaping company registered under her cousin's name. Tessa runs with it. Within days, the Briarwood Common Council becomes the most reviled entity in the entire county. The scandal doesn't stop there. More revelations unravel like a chain reaction. Penelope Ward, the county archivist with a memory like a steel trap, digs into the past. She finds decades-old deeds that prove the HOA never legally owned any of the community land. Not the parks, not the walkways, not even the clubhouse. Since the recession in 2008, all of it has remained under county jurisdiction, which means every fine collected, every fee imposed, all of it was theft. Systematic, brazen, long-standing. That's when Mona steps in, fiery as ever. She files a massive class action suit, calling in everyone who had ever been bullied, fined, or intimidated by the council. Word spreads like brushfire. Reporters descend. Neighbors band together. Momentum builds. Carlton and Mark are arrested, held without bond at first. And when the court finally sets bail, it's so steep their families have to put their homes on the line just to free them. Lorna panics, sends out a desperate email trying to spin the story, but someone forwards it to Mona, who digs deeper and finds damning financial trails. Fake invoices, forged receipts, wire transfers, clear evidence of fraud. Too late. Lorna resigns in disgrace, but the damage is already done. The federal authorities freeze her assets. Her cousin's landscaping company is raided and shuttered. Then comes the trial. The courthouse overflows. Channel 11 sets up outside with their satellite van. Neighbors cram into every seat. Judge Reyes, a woman with eyes like frost on steel, presides over the storm. The prosecution opens by showing my security footage on the big screen. There's Carlton, bold as ever, walking into my house like he owns it, ripping the finish off my grandfather's cabinet. Mark rifling through my drawers. The fake badge, the locksmith, the pistol. The crowd murmurs. People gasp. The charges are read aloud. Trespass, burglary, forgery, weapons possession, conspiracy, fraud. Carlton tries to offer an apology. The judge cuts him off. You're not the victim here, Mr. Reeves. The jury deliberates quickly. Guilty across the board. Mark gets 6 years. Carlton 8. Both permanently barred from any community leadership roles. Lorna gets probation. Her accounts emptied to reimburse what she stole. The fake landscaping tools, trucks, even office chairs are auctioned off. Proceeds returned to the residents. Judge Reyes orders the Briarwood Common Council officially dissolved. All their actions expunged. A restitution fund established for every homeowner they wronged. I step out of the courthouse into the sunlight beneath the magnolia trees. The satellite van pulls away. Neighbors slowly disperse. Carlton and Mark are led out in shackles. No longer smug, their confidence drained from their faces. Lorna tries to slip away, hiding behind sunglasses, but there's no hiding the shame. I stand still, letting the breeze touch my face, and I hear laughter, soft, distant. Children playing again in the county park that's finally open and free, paid for with the money they once hoarded. Above me, the copper rooster on my roof, which had spun wildly for months, finally stills. Points true north. Victory doesn't always arrive in a blaze of glory. Sometimes it comes with quiet, with an empty street, with the calm certainty that your home is yours again. They lost everything: status, money, trust. Their names are poisoned now in Cedar Hollow. As for me, I have my house, my peace, and my pride. The fight is over. And the silence, that silence, it's everything.